It's interesting to think that the most exciting thing that Lucasfilm can put out at this point in time is the going-ons behind the scenes of ILM, Industrial Lights and Magic, one of the many things that was included in Disney's 2012 purchase of Lucasfilm, okay, because you got Skywalker sound, and then of course, yes, you got the groundbreaking technology that was brought to you by, Lucas with all the inventions that he made over at ILM, which also brought you so many groundbreaking Hollywood technologies, and yeah, focus on this, on all of the behind the scenes, all of the technological breakthroughs that were orchestrated during that time, and especially during the time of the prequels, okay? Because let's keep it a buck, quality of the films aside, even though we will be focusing on one specific character a little bit later in the video, this is some pretty cool stuff, okay? And it really did lay the groundwork, and especially at that point in time, because I remember, okay, like I was a youngin' at this point in time, okay? And especially in 1999 in the lead up to the release of The Phantom Menace, that shit was everywhere, man. My next door neighbor, well, he lived across the street, my best friend at the point in time, Colin, shout out to him. I'm sure he's not watching, but I hope he's, last thing I heard about him was he was over teaching English in China, so shout out to him. I know he's got a family and all that stuff. I hope the best for him. He was a great friend at the time. It's been a long time since I've talked to him, but anyways, him, his family, like his father, big Star Wars fans, they were big hyped for this film. Hell, I ended up getting, as a birthday gift from him, the Naboo Starfighter model. It was steel. It was a high quality, model for sure. I didn't really care for it because I was never a big Star Wars fan growing up. It wasn't until, the Blu-ray collection that's over there, and I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, like there's 6 films in Star Wars, and it says the complete saga over there, like I can take a look at it, and yeah, I watched through all of them, and it's like, yeah, I like them all, a reasonable amount. I think that the first 2 are obviously the weakest. Third one's pretty cool, but yeah, the OT it's seminal film work, 1000%. But for as much as, A Phantom Menace is kind of wasted potential, like Qui-Gon Jinn's pretty great, and yeah, all of the breakthroughs in technology, especially in regards to Jar Jar Binks. Remember, this was 1999, and honestly, even if you still go back and see some clips from Phantom Menace, some of the stuff does look pretty good. Okay, some of the CGI is aged like milk, but honestly, a fully CGI character that is in a vast majority of the film, and it still holds up that well, and especially in 1999, it was blowing minds. I mean, you gotta tip your cap to the guy, okay, George Lucas, okay? For as much as he wasn't a script writer or a screenplay guy, definitely not a dialogue wizard, he did make magic happen in regards to, groundbreaking, revolutionary even mocap and CGI technology. With the second season of A Light and Magic, about the history of VFX giant Industrial Lights and Magic, yes, helmed by Jumanji director and former ILM veteran Joe Johnston. Okay, kicks off a fascinating glimpse into the making of Jar Jar Binks in the first 3 episodes. Okay, the first of 3 episodes, rather. The initial fan response to the character was decidedly negative. We will get to that, of course. Yes, whether for Jar Jar's slapstick humor tone clashing with the other stories, yes, within Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Well, I mean, the rest of the plot, it's not like Jar Jar is the reason that Phantom Menace is bad. It's that if you were going to be telling the story about Anakin Skywalker, he kind of needed to be in more of the story. Because the best parts of Phantom Menace are very foundational to the rest of Star Wars. It was just, the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon stuff is in fact pretty good. Pretty damn good. It's just the opportunity cost, especially if you were coming out, with a trilogy about the foundations, about what led up to Vader, and you focus on the kid, but then you just stick him off to the side and you tell him that, try spinning, that's a good trick. Not exactly a winning strategy. Like as everybody has said before, time and time again, start with Attack of the Clones, and then just, the second film could have been about the Clone Wars. Definitely sowing more seeds of doubt in Anakin's mind, as opposed to just, the light switch that Palpatine turns on in the third film, where automatically, oh, Anakin's evil, huh? That's interesting. But I digress. Jar Jar hate has softened a little bit over time. Yeah. Particularly concerning the work of performer Ahmed, who beat out both Robin Williams and Michael Jackson for the role of Binks. Now, I hadn't heard about the Robin Williams story before, but I thought I heard that, Michael Jackson was too famous for the role, so that's why George didn't want to cast him. That would have been, both of those would be, Like, I could see a Robin Williams, a Jar Jar Binks, and it still wouldn't make sense in the context of Star Wars, and especially in the story that they were trying to tell. But I'd be lying. It's kind of like how Sean Connery was initially offered the role of Gandalf. He wouldn't have been better than Ian McKellen, but I still, just out of sheer curiosity, would kind of want to see it. Anyways, but yeah, a little bit more about what is discussed in this documentary, okay? Best was the first to step into the mocap suit, and Jar Jar marked the industry's first, yes, major mocap CG character. Yeah, no, that's 1,000% true. That's right, Jar Jar helped pave the way for Andy Serkis's Gollum and Caesar and every other innovative CG character that, has been mocapped, performance captured, or keyframed in the 21st century. But here's the thing, right? Because Gollum, Andy Serkis wasn't actually supposed to do any of the mocap stuff. Like, Gollum was going to be 1,000% CGI, and he was just going to be doing the voice, but because he hopped in the mocap suit that one day and impressed Peter Jackson so much, they decided to go the route of mocap, and that's a performance that very much benefits from that, as opposed to Jar Jar, which, hey man, I think Jar Jar definitely got done dirty, and especially Ahmed Best, which, interesting, right? Because much has been made, especially in recent years, especially with all of the terrible, terrible Star Wars slop projects that have been pumped out on D+. Okay, with hindsight and comparisons to a lot of those new and introduced characters, Jar Jar looks a little bit better by comparison. And everybody still at this point in time wants to see Binks a Star Wars story and make him a secret Sith, okay? Because he did, in fact, secede absolute power to the Chancellor. Jar Jar, what made you come to that conclusion, my dude? Why, I want to see it. I want to see it. The Star Wars' most hated character became one of its most important in movie history, but the actor didn't realize it for years. So now focusing a little bit more on Ahmed Best, playing the character became a darker time thanks to the fallout of his appearance in the movies as an all-CGI character, and for that reason, he was only really starting to appreciate why Jar Jar Binks is actually one of the greatest and most important characters in the world of cinema. Well, its inclusion and its implementation is one of the most important. As for the character itself, like, okay, speaking with Screen Rant, it's Star Wars Celebration, a supposed documentary series, in support, rather, of the documentary series Light and Magic Season 2, Best was asked whether he really appreciated that Jar Jar Binks' position as a first ever all-CGI creation, coming years before Andy Serkis, who is known for motion capture work as Gollum, Caesar in the Apes movies, and then he would eventually find his way to Star Wars as Kino Loy. At the time, I was just so excited to be a part of the cast and part of ILM team. And we're so excited making stuff like doing the Phantom Menace, and the time was like being in the best film company at the best internet startup you could possibly imagine. I mean, every day it was an iterative experience. Every day was an invention. Every day we made mistakes and failed up, so it didn't feel like we were really basking in the moment of history. It felt like we had a job to do and we had to do it, and we had to do it to the best of our abilities, and everybody just brought their A game. It was kind of one of those things, like, you don't really know you're building Microsoft until you see Microsoft, so it really didn't dawn on me the historical significance. But what it did do to me was create an ethic for work. It made me recognize that with the right amount of people and the right person at the head of it, anything is possible. So it kind of seems like, especially with, at this point in time, 26 years between Jar Jar being on screen and Ahmed Best having the opportunity to reflect on his impact on cinema, he has a much more favorable opinion of it than he did at the time, which, Jar Jar Binks actor Ahmed Best recalls the moment that he just about jumped, that he made a long-term commitment to short-term problems, because if he would have decided to go freediving without a parachute, he wouldn't have been brought back into the fold and become one of the most important people behind the scenes at Star Wars. Check this out. But yes, he reflects on that self-deletion moment during fan backlash and docuseries Light and Magic. I thought it was my fault. Oh, interesting. So, Entertainment Weekly is now trying to reframe this as fan backlash, which is very interesting, right? Because who provided all of that backlash? Who was actually telling you that everybody hates Jar Jar when in actuality the most vitriol was coming from the media? In the recently released second season of Disney Plus's docuseries Light and Magic exalts in how advancing technology enhances all the shows and movies we love. But for the O's and ones of George Lucas' founded company, ILM, are the people using their brains and their hearts to make it all happen. One comes in the docuseries, Part 1, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, Part 2 by Joe Johnston, and truly impressed by the creativity brimming from the group that may seem, at first, like a bunch of computer jockeys. A great deal of the second episode of the second season is devoted to the potentially controversial topic of the hardcore fan set, the genesis and reaction to Jar Jar Binks, which, as you can see, damn man, Jar Jar still looks great. Even Boss Nass looks great. Some of those big wide CGI spots, especially the big battle with all the battle droids, kind of looks a little rubbery, a little bit more reboot as opposed to, well, the stupidity of Rise of Skywalker. But honestly, in proper context, it's damn good for 1999, as opposed to Gollum, which still to this day looks friggin' amazing. I don't even know how they managed to pull that off, let alone in 2002 and 2003, and it still looks amazing in 2025. Fire that stuff up if you don't believe me. The daffy, clumsy Gungan was a major breakthrough for computer-generated characters, but audience reaction, and this is an understatement, was mixed when it first hit the screen in 1999. Indeed, some members of the press were so eager to throw rocks at the pure of heart Jar Jar, they forgot that he represented the hard work of actual people. Yeah, some members of the press. Interesting, I just want to kind of sneak that in right there. Well, industry vet George Lucas shrugged off the negativity with ease, remembering how people felt about C-3PO, annoying and stupid. Yeah, exactly. You have, the trash can and the gay robot butler. That still, to this very day, is how people normally talk about the droids, okay? Saying that 80% of people in the movie business get trashed by the press. Yes, that's a cold comfort from ILM's Rob Coleman, and more devastatingly, the young actor Ahmed Best, whose voice and performance capture, was transformed into what we see on screen. And honestly, he did a good job. He was in character. You might hate the dialogue, you might hate the performance, but the way that he was directed, that's what should be derided. Creating the character as it is, that was pretty bad, but his performance, man, it's iconic. Okay, let's keep it a buck. The degree of emotion Best recalls over 25 years later, how hurt he was by the negativity. Press junkets, came with loaded questions about his background. Early websites were devoted to hating Jar Jar. Oh no, anonymous people on the internet. And who brought that to his attention? Oh right, the press, always looking for a soundbite. And they were misinterpretations about the character's intentions. Oh, interesting. I thought it was my fault. I was 26. What should have felt like the beginning of something quite wonderful felt like the end. He then detailed how he was, on an unusually still and quiet night in New York City. He ended up at the Brooklyn Bridge, not even remembering how he got there. I just remember myself on the outside of the bridge, leaning on one of the big pillars. I see the Statue of Liberty, and what I think to myself is, I'll show every single one of them what y'all did to me. I'm gonna make every one of you feel what you did to me. Luckily, fate or something intervened. I'm leaning on the bridge, and I'm getting closer and closer to just being free of all the talking and people. And then, out of nowhere, whoosh, a gust of wind blows at me. Well, it's the Brooklyn Bridge. It's pretty busy. He continued. I lose my balance and I grabbed onto the side of the bridge. Then I laughed to myself. What are you doing? What are you doing? He explained that suddenly he got very scared, which was good. I got happy that I was afraid. It meant that I wanted to live. He concluded that the lesson that you learned from everyone who does CGI characters now is to talk about the actor, not just the character. Like, the actor doesn't exist. Yeah, exactly, man, because it's so sad, right? Because Andy Serkis is honestly like one of the best working actors right out there. Like, he provided a voice, pretty major voice, for one of the best games to come out this year, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Like, the voice cast on that, like, you got Charlie Cox and Andy Serkis. It's like, and to make that on like a $5 million budget, like, bros, that game is such a technological wonder. Okay, and then every time you see Andy Serkis, whether he's playing stupid Snoke or a proper character like Kenobi in Star Wars, he always brings it. He's one of the most reliable performers arguably ever. But here's the thing, man, because his most notable roles are normally CGI, like film buffs are probably going to know the name Andy Serkis, but most people, if you say Gollum, but there was an actor behind that, and it's like, oh wow, his voice actually sounds like that. That's most people. Like, before a lot of this stuff kicked off and I started to follow the Star Wars stuff a lot closer, I didn't know who Ahmed Best was. I was like, oh yeah, Jar Jar, that was that character that I didn't really like, but he was also a part of, at one point in time, the highest grossing movie of all time, okay, and then he also found his way back into the fold at Lucasfilm, and also, you can see the little tagline. I was going to bring it up, but it's like, what's the point? Ahmed Best, he's also, the Jedi responsible for saving, for better or for worse. Again, he's also saving another character that is quite divisive. Okay, he ended up saving Baby Grogu from Order 66. So he's back in the fold at Star Wars, even though he's been in the fold at Lucasfilm for a long time. Okay, even back when the Star Wars prequels came out, to heavy criticism in some quarters, all agree that the lightsaber fight between Yoda and Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones was quite epic. Well, also Yoda versus the Emperor in episode 3 is pretty great as well. But yes, as Lucas predicted, to a down in the dumps Coleman, 10 years old in 1999, would grow up to be an adult to claim Jar Jar was their favorite character. Yes, and indeed, this has happened. The sequence in Light and Magic concluded with Best celebrating at the current Star Wars convention. Yes, exactly. It turns out Best was clutch in helping that all come together. Yeah, because, Yoda, was he a puppet in Phantom Menace? And then after George did a bunch of touch-ups, he ended up becoming CGI. Lucas gave the effects team a little guidance, other than you'll think of something, and like the Tasmanian Devil, when describing how Jedi Master Yoda, whom we'd never really seen move before, engages in the battle. Now, while Coleman was scratching his head, Best, a martial artist, invited him back to the crib and fed him a video of anime and Bruce Lee movies, and specifically Swordsman 2 starring Jet Li. Seeing the way that the samurai jumped and spun around was the inspiration Coleman needed. So without Ahmed Best, we wouldn't have had Yoda versus Count Dooku, okay? The way that it played out, which would be a goddamn shame, because that is, like, all the stuff on Geonosis is obviously the best, and some of the cloning stuff, okay? Like, that's quite good. And of course, Obi-Wan over the top of the prequels is just great in and of itself. But yeah, man, the final climax at the end, after Anakin loses a hand because Dooku's that guy, is like, oh yeah, you have 2 lightsabers, but I was also a wizard. That was back when, Star Wars had, like character moments in their fights instead of just, swinging glowy baseball bats at one another. Oh, it's what happened to the action sequence in movies. They used to be able to be good character moments instead of just a point where you can just turn off your brain and just enjoy the things you're seeing. Anyways, and Best also made him promise we'd get a cool looking shot of Yoda taking his fight stance, which inspired one of the biggest audience cheers when the movie came out. Yes, exactly. Ahmed Best's redemption story, well, it was a story that really didn't need to happen because the press was just simply being the scumbags that they always were, and how they would run that back to being fan backlash when in actuality they were the ones responsible for Ahmed Best's turbulent times in the early 2000s. But now all's well that ends well. He is responsible for amazing things, and also, as a consequence, for every Gollum, for every Yoda. He also brought us the Avatar movies, which make a lot of money, but I don't remember a goddamn thing about them. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.